Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Guile here, and welcome back to GyleCast Premium, the home of the discerning SOPCOM viewer who thinks somebody in Putin's administration should take one for the team. My God, what's going on? Honestly, it's the 21st century, allegedly. And yet here we are, same old BS. Honestly, if you're at all affected, if you're in Ukraine, although I can't imagine possibly why you'd be watching this if you're in Ukraine. A, I bet there's pressing things on your mind right now, and B, I bet the internet coverage is shocking right now. But if you have loved ones, friends and family, people you care about over there, I really do hope everything turns out. Someone pointed out to me on social media, thoughts and prayers don't do a lot. Yeah, I know, but you can have them anyway. Sincerely, hope everything turns out and this madness is short-lived. But we can only hope. On to other things. You'll have noticed that this has turned up in a different place. So Vimeo counter-offered, from what I was saying before, for those of you who might not have heard, Vimeo got very upset with the amount of bandwidth that my users were using. I wanted to move me from, I don't know, something crazy, a tariff of 160 quid a year, or it's a bit more than maybe 180 quid a year, to $3,000 a year, and I can't afford that. So I was like, see you later. So we're trying this as unlisted links on YouTube and then just listed here. It's the best we can do. It's a bit more clunky, but hey, it might work out better for you guys, more convenient. I know a few of you have had problems here and there with Vimeo, so that is what we are trying. And in order to properly reset the mood with all the doom and gloom right now, I thought we'd have an epic, and we'd have one on the infamous Setons clutch. It's going to be a long one as well, guys, fair warning. So hope you enjoy. It's going to be custom 4v4, an eclectic mix of Joes and pros, and the best news is there's no other news, so we can go straight to the action. I'm ready, you guys are ready, and the players are sure as hell ready, so let's go on over to the game zone and see how they're going to get on. Ching! Ka-ching! We've been here many a time before. We'll call this Team 1 up here at the top. This Team 2 down here at the bottom, going first for Team 1. Rearguard air position in Ferrari red. It's a JT. Very cool guy, JT. There he is. Going cyber, an interesting decision for air player. And going first land in Ferrari red. Down at the cliffs for Team 2. It's none other than my favourite name to say in the world. It's Hakamakama. Or you know him actually better as UD. I might interchange the two names depending on how tiring that gets to say throughout the course of the game. Anyway, here he is. He's going Aeon in baby pink, going first land, second air. Our Causeway player today for Team 1 in this season's fabulous Vivacious Violet. Another cyber and interesting decision for the Causeway. It is I Am Sorry. I'll be calling him Sorry today. And he's going first land, unsurprisingly, and then rounding things off for Team 1 up here at the beach in Pontiff White. Another Cybrin, it's Shady Socks. There he is, opening first land. So 3 Cybrins and an Aeon there for Team 1. Let's check out Team 2 now. Rearguard air position, first of all, as always. Another Cybrin, it's Marrow. I said Mario there, but there's no I. It is Marrow, I guess, as in the bone, or are there 2 R's in bone marrow? Answers in the comment section below. He is opening first land, going second air, and yeah, that's all there is to say about him. Up here, I'm sure there's lots more to say about him, but that's all I know. Up here at the cliffs for Team 2 in electric blue, it's Sneed, another Aeon. He's going first land, second air. Causeway fighter for Team 2, already on his way to the middle. Finally, a UEF, it's Armor 473. That is a sensible choice. I know I'm biased on UEF, but it's a sensible choice for the Causeway. At least that extra hit point advantage, invaluable in some of the com-on-com action early doors. But he is going land all day in baby blue. No surprises there. That's all pretty standard. And then down at the beach in mellow yellow. You know what? I'm not going to say that over and over again. This guy should be referred to as William for the course of the game. That's what you get if you're going to make me say rude words. I won't say it. William, there he is. And he's going Cybrin, opening first land, second air. So Team 2, 2 Cybrin, an Aeon there, and a UEF. No Seraphim love in today's game, so I don't expect to see any sub-hunters, all those majestic Seraphim cruisers with their ridiculous anti-air capabilities. What are we looking at in terms of general ranking. So you can see Team 1, we've got a 2400. That's Yudi. He is the top-rated player in the game. And then the other pro on Team 1 is Shady Socks over at the beach. So it's Cliff and Beach there with the, not two newbies, but the two Joeys there down the center. And of course, unsurprisingly, in terms of balance, similar situation sorted out down here. Highest rated player mirroring UD over there is at the cliffs there for Team 2 as well. That's Sneed, he's 2300. And then William over here at the beach for 2000. We're getting the transports away. We've got one for UD coming over here, a chariot laden with 3 engineers. Going to drop 2 off down there, and the other one's coming up to the top of the hill. But we do have a circling scout plane waiting to inform this inbound bomber from Willie to see if he can take these engineers out. This would be quite the coup for Team 2 if he can pull it off. Down goes one engineer, still 2 more to pick up. Are there any inbound defensive aircraft? Yes, there are, but they are a ways out. Down goes the second engineer. Can he bag engineer number 3 and put a stop to this early expansion? There goes the payload. Yes, he can. Very nicely done indeed. So fantastic denial there from William. Meanwhile, up at the other side island, on the other side of the screen, Sneed had no problems offloading 3 engineers up there, and they're happily getting to work about their business, throwing down land factories and the like, other mexes and what have you. And the battle for the middle ensues as Armor and Sorry get into it. Sorry, of course, yielding a good 2,000 hit points right off the bat to that UEF ACU. But he's got some assistance there from Shady Socks, who's moved his way from the beach down the causeway to it. So actually a 2v1 situation in favor of Team 1. Armor now backing up away from this engagement. Sorry, who took the brunt of the opening fire. He's down to around 6,000 hit points. Is now free to scoop a little bit more reclaim. We'll keep a close eye on totals, mass totals, to see who gets the lion's share of the reclaim. So far, it's 29k versus 27k, actually 30 versus 27, something in that order. So Team 2 actually doing better so far, but with 2 ACUs in the vicinity in the midpoint, that could all change very quickly indeed. Bomber over here still lurking in the far east. Is that the same one? No, it's not. It's actually a different one. That first one must have been shot down. No kills you can see on board that T1 bomber. And the aircraft that were being used defensively before by Hakamaka or UD now inbound towards William's base. William actually moving out with a chariot of his own. He's got 3 engineers on board there. Has that been spotted? Our survey says yes, it has. So unlikely they're going to get to their destination. Can he drop them off in the water before it gets shot down? Probably wants to get on it. Yes, he can. So those 3 engineers are able to make Seafall at least. The chariot is not going to make it back to base, but he won't worry about that. And that'll allow them to get a forward naval factory up in play in that bottom pond for the newer people out there watching. And I appreciate there won't be quite so many of you as there are the more casual viewers on YouTube. But if there are any people less au fait with SOPCOM, it makes sense sometimes to throw down that first naval yard a little bit further into the middle of the pond. It just means they've got less distance to travel from being produced to engaging targets over here at the cliffs and potentially forcing a deny, because you can see he's only just working on his naval yards over here. So if you can shut him out altogether, that would be an enormous boon for Team 2. Aircraft tangling above the naval yards of Shady Socks up at the beach there for Team 1. 3 naval yards online for him. How does that compare to our cliff player from Team 2, Sneed? Sometimes they get to work on naval yards up here. Indeed they have. So setting up some naval yards there. Looks like he's going for 3 right off the bat. So build capacity looks to be pretty even in that top pond so far. Shady Socks and Sorry continue to scoop mass. They've dropped back a little bit away from Armor. Armor's also taken a bit of a battering over here. He's on around 5,700 hit points. Let's just take a quick look at the reclaim totals. So down here we've got Shady Socks and Sorry. Shady Socks has pulled in 2.8k. Sorry has pulled in 4.9. Armor has pulled in 7.7 and climbing. And in terms of total mass, you can see Team 2 still ahead by about 2 and a bit K. So actually, despite the fact that we've got 2 ACUs from Team 1 down here on the causeway, so far things seem to be going okay for Team 2. Always useful to have that extra hit point buffer from a UEF ACU on that central causeway there. Working on a second land factory up front as well. Nice little radar station for good intel. Frigates getting into things in the top pond. One of Sox's frigates isolated by 2 Beacon-class frigates there from Sneed. Making a run for it, but it doesn't look like he's going to get back to port. And then his buddies show up just in time to see poor old Phil, who was always the joker of the class. That boot camp now sinking towards the bottom of the ocean. Very sad indeed. Interceptors buzzing around over here, and you can see finally Hakamaka has managed to set up shop over here now. Managed to make landfall. So William, his early bomber tactics served to delay UD, but did not deny him. He hasn't been able to get any of his own units over there, but certainly he's put out enough of a delaying tactic to allow Sneed to get a little bit further ahead on his side of things, fully controlling that side island. And potentially William now stands a good chance of making a fair fight in that bottom pond. It's always tricky when you're fighting off against the Cliffs player. If you're at one of these 2 beach positions, typically, just because of the distribution of mexes, looks like that's actually a mex that often goes to the Cliffs player. It's currently in Marrow's hands, air player from Team 2 down here. But typically speaking, the Cliffs get a better distribution of mass production, mass resources than the beach player. So it's very much harder to counter against that, which is interesting actually when you think about it, that they've placed the highest ranking players at the Cliffs position. In terms of balance, I would have thought it better to handicap them slightly and put them in the harder position. I've always considered beach to be just that little bit more taxing. But anyway, checking out the totals on their current income, just to make sure I'm not talking complete gubbins. You can see, yes, they're the highest rated players, so you would expect them to be best at macro, but 119 mass for Sneed and 116 for Hakamaka. I assure you those totals would be highest even if everybody was the same rating, because you just have access, especially with the side island, to more mass. It is the way things go. It is the way of balance there for Setons. It has always been thus. Lovely little bomb there. Takes out 4 engineers. Minding their own business. Going around. Producing mass storage for this T2 mechs up here. But there's still a good 5 or so engineers in this little clump. In fact, there's engineers everywhere. Look at it. So, no great stalling tactic there. That T1 bomber, which incidentally got shot down immediately. It had unloaded its payload. T3 upgrade at 80% in climbing for Sneed. This looks like it's going to be a very macro-heavy game, just judging by the start. People happy to sit back, tech up, not an enormous amount of harass. We haven't got drops kicking off everywhere. One triad up front for a bit of extra range, and then some T1 point defenses. However, currently receiving inbound mobile missile fire by the looks of things, or was that attack missile? Not seeing any Vipers in this mix, but suddenly, oh yeah, there we go. So it was a mobile missile fire. Doesn't surprise me. I would have expected it to do more damage had it been attack missile, but things are really kicking off here now between Armour and Sorry. Armour leading from the front with his ACU, has the Zephamp upgrade on board. Sorry, by comparison, is yet to be upgraded in any way, shape or form. So that is a raw basic ACU right there, compared to a tanked up armor with both Engineering Suite, Tech 2, and the gun upgrade. There's no way Sorry's going to be able to hold this. He's going to have to back away, if at all he manages to survive it. He may not. This may be the end of him at 12 minutes here. He's getting absolutely mobbed. Engineers over here hurriedly trying to get some point defense online, but it looks like he's been completely overwhelmed. There's no way those engineers are going to get many of those online before they get gizzarded. There they go. And Sorry now surrounded and hit points plummeting as he gets prioritized into the red. And they all... Oh, interesting. They all stopped firing for a moment there, and actually Sorry Control K'd. I wondered if that's a feature of the way things work when a com's about to Control K, if it somehow kills off the targeting for inbound units, or maybe it was just a coincidence and for some bizarre reason armor laid off and held fire. But nonetheless, he took an awful lot of troops with him, and that will alleviate some of the pressure on JT, who's inherited his base, who then hands the base over to Shady Socks. He says, no, thank you very much. I will continue with my air production and little else. You focus on all ground and naval things, please. He'd love to hold on to that T2 reactor if he can. That would be useful. Fortunately, there are no artillery pieces in this mix, so taking down structures is not easy. And you know what? They're not going to manage it with what's left of that force. The Control K instrumental in wiping out as many of those T1 units as possible. You get a much bigger explosion if you detonate your commander. I really wish, you know what? Since there's a difference between Control K and just dying normally, I think the explosion from when your comm dies normally, if it's going to be a weaker explosion, they should replace it with a support commander explosion when they go pop. I think that's the way to do it. And then, you know, it sort of represents the damage just a little bit more. I think that would be sensible. If you agree with me, send in your idea to the devs. I'm sure many of you don't. There is something nice, I give you. I give it to you. Something nice about the large comm explosion. You'd see a lot less of it if it was only Control Ks that resulted in that colossal nuke going off. And now UD encroaching on the main naval yards of William, who has a decent number of frigates. Let's do a quick frigate count, see what we're looking at here in terms of firepower on both sides. 34 T1 frigates for Willie, and UD, we've got 36, so it's pretty darn even. Add to that the fact that the reinforcement point is right here. There's no way UD can win this right off the bat. UD has managed to kill off that forward naval yard, which actually didn't manage to get very far forward. If that's the same one, I thought it was a little bit further into the lake, but of course those engineers were forced down from that transport earlier by some good airplay there from Team 1. Speaking of airplay, JT and Marrow getting into it in the skies above these navies, both rocking Cybrin with their douchey stealth planes. That's a local win, if not in numbers, certainly in airspace for Team 2. Marrow holds the field. Now Tech 3 on the way for armor. Are we going to see a full-scale proxy base going up here, guarding the causeway, equipped complete with Ravager turrets and the like? Probably not a terrible idea. It's always difficult to hold the midpoint, so you're going to need to properly beef yourself out, get as jacked as possible, get those shield gens up and running, lots of clink hammers. Where are we eco-wise? So not a huge amount of daylight between the two teams. It's 343k versus 336. Full share, of course, is on. We forgot to mention the poor fairies would have died in some horrendous fashion. But As a result of full share being on, there is of course no mass base reclaiming, so we can rely on these figures being an accurate representation of what the teams have pulled in. 362 versus 353. Not a great deal of difference between the two, but Team 2 still in the lead on that front. Things going nicely for them so far. T3 upgrade on the way for JT, who's massively expanding on his air production facilities. Already has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 air factories online. Going for another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 7. If I counted that right, seems like I might have got ahead of myself there. Still learning to count at the age of 40. Horrendous though that is. I give it to them. The Cybran frigates do look pretty sharp. I mean, everything Cybran looks pretty sharp. Just sharp as in, if you touch it, you will bleed. Spiky, if you will. T3 completed for armor, and his first call of business is to drop back and control K a bunch of factories. So he's not going to hold this position. He's actually dropping right back to the middle. Guess he feels like he's a little bit behind Shady Socks, and he would be correct in that assumption. We've got a bank of 3 Gunther artillery pieces here under multiple shield gens. That would be an uphill battle to contend with that. How much breathing room does he have from those Gunthers? A decent amount. That's not a huge range, is it? So he's well out of range of those if he decides to set up shop right in the midpoint here. I'm surprised he's not going straight for it. If the order of business was that T3 engineering suite, and it was all very intentional by the looks of things, so you would have thought he would have gone straight to it, but he's currently engaged elsewhere. He's actually getting some naval yards online just off the cliffs here west of the causeway. Let's do a quick vessel count for the top pond here with Sneed. Sneed now rocking some 58 frigates, and he's also got a couple of destroyers in there now as well. How is Shady Socks looking? Remember, he's holding the causeway off at the same time. He's on 55 frigates, so he's not falling behind. A small force from Sneed engaging at the top of the map over here. And then a secondary larger force coming in from the south. No massive merger of the two navies. Both taking their time to pick their targets. A couple of Vipers exposing themselves unnecessarily. That never ends well. Something very majestic about those Aeon destroyers, the Exodus. That long alpha strike. Not necessarily the best vessel in the game. If you're alert and on the ball, easy to out-micro them because of that slow muzzle velocity. In come the frigates and the destroyers now for Sneed in that top pond. They've destroyed one naval yard already. Looks like another one's going to be on the way out too in just a moment. Just needs one more shell to land. There it goes. Ton of engineering units surrounding these T2 factories, trying to get some Salems out to counter the extra firepower from these cruisers and destroyers. Although I'm only seeing that one cruiser. Where have the destroyers got to? Have they been sunk by the Gunthers over here? You can see some shells moving into the top pond from the causeway. You can see one or two wrecks on the bottom of the top pond. But there we go, we do have 3 or so destroyers up to the top of that pack. Interesting little flyby from some ASFs there from JT. Is that just a scouting mission? Trying to find weak points. Not a lot going in the main base for Hakamaka, for UD. You can see he's recycled all of his T1 P-Gens and now working on T3 reactors. Waves and waves of torpedo bombers now being produced though from JT, who are moving in to assist in the top pond, trying to repel this attack from Sneed, who is unloading all kinds of mayhem on Shady Socks's position. They want to home in on those destroyers first of all. One nicely placed asylum though, offering sun coverage to the destroyers. Shady Socks going for broke with his tridents, those frigates, trying to take down those 3 Exodus class destroyers of Sneed's. You get the feeling this could be crucial to the game, the outcome of this battle, who is going to emerge victorious in the top pond. Remember, of course, as we said, there's an economic advantage to the cliff position, so you would expect as well, of course, with the extra rating on the players that reside there, you would expect these guys to win their respective ponds, and it certainly looks like it could be going that way, although suddenly an emergence of an awful lot of Salem class destroyers from Shady Socks means that the battle is actually starting to shift momentum, maybe pushing westward. Hard to say at this point, but whatever the outcome, Shady Socks buying himself some crucial time here. He's lost 3 naval yards at the bottom of his stack down here, but he is now up to 3 Tech 2 naval yards, all of which are building destroyers. William saying it's GG already at 25 minutes. That's a little bit early. I certainly wouldn't be labeling it an epic if it was over so quickly. But I do sympathize. It looks like it's not going brilliantly for him in the bottom pond. He's holding his own just about, but he's now receiving a lot of airborne pressure inbound from JT. Marrow posturing to get in on this fight, but he's well down on ASF numbers. JT with a very large escorting force. There's no way Marrow comes out on top of this one if it all kicks off in the air, and he knows it, which is why the torpedo bombers are still getting work done. He's probably going to have to try and suicide these air superiority fighters just to try and buy Williams some time, and this is exactly what he decides to do in the end. Loses all of those fighters, but does manage to take out those torpedo bombers. We're getting some assistance in this bottom pond, though, inbound from Armour, who's actually got, by the looks of things, a battle cruiser. I'm just trying to work out where he's got that from, because that's only a T2 factory. There it is. So he's got a T3 naval yard up here next to his commander. Well defended with SAMs and tactical missile defense. He's pumping out these Neptunes. What he really needs is some floating flak, but unfortunately, of course, that's not something that the UEF can produce. Very much an Aeon and a Seraphim thing. So if he wants any of that floating flak, he's going to have to ask for an engineer or for unit donations from his teammate Sneed on the other side. Sneed, of course, a little busy with his own business right now, as a Galaxy-class flagship emerges from Shady Socks. It's going to give him a massive ranged advantage, although I think you can see in the background there, inbound, that looks like an Omen-class battleship coming in the other direction towards this position for Sneed. Certainly looks like it. So, battleships turning up all at the same kind of time. Very little happening on the causeway. No major surprises there. One player down and out already. And the player who won that engagement is now embroiled in assisting with naval defense in this bottom pond. Inbound air units now falling foul of a few SAMs that have just been spammed up. It's not actually a bad idea if armor can drift further into the lake and start spamming more of those SAMs out, and if he can use his battle cruisers to protect this position in the middle, maybe he can eat into UD's position, which is very centralized now in this bottom pond. You can see this massive line of T1 naval yards. That is his reinforcement point. But things looking very, very poor now for William, who's got a ton of destroyers and a battleship, just smashing down his naval facilities over here. One more T2 naval yard. Where is the HQ though? Has that already been destroyed? It is still producing a Salem. I'm not sure if you're allowed to finish production of the thing you were working on when your HQ goes down. I do forget how that works. Answers in the comment section down there, guys, if you can clarify that for me. Oh dear, oh dear. And that inbound Omen battleship we saw a moment ago from Sneed, now completely surrounded as the rest of his units have been sunk. And I think this huge bank of harms might have something to do with it. Shady Socks, going a full defensive measure, has rustled up some 13 harms in the area, and that's immensely difficult to contend with unless you have a fleet of battleships that you can use to, I say ground fire, but of course I suppose the term would be better described as water fire or water surface fire. This is valiant defense right now from Shady Socks, keeping Sneed at bay. Sneed, who's putting out almost 700 mass per tick. Shady Socks, even though he's inherited the causeway position, is only putting out some 500. Definitely an uphill battle. But what happened there? William, after losing his naval base, obviously went dirty cyber and telesnipe, and has managed, admittedly, to chain react a bunch of air production belonging to JT before finally getting taken out by the whopping quantity of Cerberus turrets up here. Well, apologies for missing that. But I actually think that was probably unnecessary. And if he was going to take out anyone, there must have been better options. Safer options, at least. Other hit-and-run tactics that he could have employed. Certainly over here, Shady Socks looks pretty undefended. We've got Gunther's up here, but they're not going to finish you off on a tele-snipe. So he could have picked off Shady Socks. That would have been the better target. But then, of course, full share is on. So he would have wanted to inflict important infrastructure damage as well. And he certainly did that. He has hampered JT's ability now to keep up with air production against Marrow. Marrow, who has now inherited this beach base from William. But can he hold on to his air production facilities? He's got a forward position over here. But there's a lot of inbound fire. Oh dear, oh me. From a massive quantity of torrents over here. The Aeon missile ships. That's so many missiles. Look at this. UD wasted absolutely no time from the point where he knew he was going to win the bottom pond. He shifted production emphasis towards the ridiculously powerful Aeon missile ships. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those. This is now a living nightmare for Team 2. You can see the sheer quantity of tactical missile defense that Marrow is now having to employ just to attempt to keep this relentless, unending barrage at bay. And still it's not enough. Still some of those missiles are getting through. I think if enough of these zappers get built, he should be okay. But ouch. Emphasis shifting once again. Missile focus now being turned to Armor's position, who does have a whole bunch of buzzkills up here, but still seemingly not enough to keep up with the sheer quantity of missiles being unleashed. Down goes one of the core T3 mass points. And that is a solid win in the bottom pond for UD and Team 1. Team 2, conversely, look at this. They still haven't closed out the win in the top pond, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen anytime soon either. So many harms. Look at all of these battleships down here. That
strategic launch detected.
Aircraft carrier probably wants to back up. He's got 25 aircraft on board. He's going to get himself sunk along with all of his aircraft if he's not careful. Torpedoes inbound from those Galaxy-class battleships. And there is the withdraw command. I'm surprised they haven't got at least one battleship to focus a proper volley in on it. Bosh! What was that? Is that another death? No, that is a tactical nuke out from Armor, who is pushing up now this western approach of the causeway, shifting emphasis now that he knows the bottom pond has lost. He's going after the naval base in the top pond, trying to weaken Shady Socks. Definitely the right decision, I think, although it's always dangerous being this far forward. Any point you could get a whole wave of Cyber and torpedo bombers inbound from JT. That will end your game real quick. He's got a large trail of build capacity following him, but that's just getting wiped out by inbound Gunther fire from the little battery up here. Major air battle kicking off over the top of Shady Socks' harbour. And that looks like it's gone Marrow's way. And Shady Sock saying, do loyalists affect the Billy Nuke? I'm pretty sure it does. Answer in the comment section. We might actually see it if that's his plan. Is he currently producing loyalists? Can't see any under production for the moment, but in comes the next missile, the next tactical nuke. It has to fly over the top of some aircraft carriers and battleships, though, and they're going to swat it out of the sky with their own tactical missile defense. Whole other thing that he has to worry about there, but he definitely doesn't want to stroll into harm's range with his comm, and that's what he's done. This harm's over here picks up the signature and unleashes torpedo hell, and before Armor can get out of range, he's going to lose a ton of weight, down to 8,500 hit points. Build capacity up here, still working on more T1 torpedo launchers. Meanwhile, a megalith pushing down the causeway from Team 1. This is stunning stuff from Team 1, who really were behind at the beginning. Armor forced to bring his comm and his Billy Nuke to bear on the harbour, has had to abandon the causeway, and that's really left the door open now for Shady Socks, who is pushing down with that experimental and what is mostly T2, but we do have a couple of bricks assisting it. It's absolutely vital now for Team 2, if they want to stay in this game, they have got to shut this harbour down. They've got to take out these harms, finish off these Tech 3 naval yards, which are still producing battleships. Tempest will definitely help with its extraordinary long range. Marrow following a horde of JT's ASFs into hostile territory. Probably doesn't want to do that. Let's just get a quick idea of where we are on air superiority count. 92 air superiorities there for JT. Marrow on 183. That's a lot. So it's a 2-to-1 advantage there, but those ASFs are coming back probably because of this massive restorer push from UD, going after the forward set of air production facilities over here, which the torrents still haven't broken thanks to the huge quantities of zappers which are now in play. They have managed to take out a whole line of zappers pretty much. Nice little group of whalers over there as well. I'm surprised those whalers not able to take out some of these torrents, but we do have a decent number of ascendants lurking, which is probably why. But in come the air superiority fighters of Marrow, bunching up on that ball of gunships over here. Goodness me, they really are clumping. It's quite a neat little trick. Lots of flak, of course, around those gunships. Whalers brought to bear on that inbound megalith, which isn't going to last long at all. Look at it. Hit points evaporating. Down that goes. Air superiority fighters get stuck in. Surely Marrow must have lost his air advantage by now. 66 ASFs. He's gone from 180 down to 66. And now JT is up to 135. You can see how quickly momentum shifts in different theaters and phases of the game. And speaking of momentum shifts, finally, at almost 40 minutes, it looks like the top pond is ready for capitulation. Down to, it's no small part, I'm sure, down to Armor's Billy Nuke assisting. 99 kills before the impact of this one. No more harms for you, sir. Just this one left over here. And down that goes. Well, well, well. Goodness gracious me. Huge stream of support commanders filing out of Yudi's base now into the middle of that bottom pond. They're all upgrading their RAS preset. Currently, I wonder if they're upgrading to advanced RAS. Check back in a bit and see what it is that they're upgrading to. But that base of that beach base, excuse me, of Williams, formerly, now completely eradicated. That forward set of air production facilities of Marrows, that's down and out. We're now up to 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 torrents. Absolutely disgusting quantities of missiles to try to defend against. And we really do have a proper wheeling action going on. Huge amounts of T1 bombers. Throwaway units being sent to counter a nice little incursion up here by Sneed. He's managed to get some engineers and a support commander up into this top corner. Got a few land factories online, but it doesn't look like he's going to be allowed to keep them. Solid response there from him. Billy Nukes continue to impact in this area. Shady Sock's doing what he can to stay in this and slow down the assault from this top pond coalition. Next Billy Nuke, that's going to take down that Gunther battery. Absolute mayhem. Marrow has a proper nuke. Where is he hiding it, is the question. He has a whole load of facilities up here, but I still can't find it. I'm sure we'll see soon enough, unless of course he was asking got nuke to one of his teammates. I would imagine he was talking about himself, the way he said it. I like to picture one of you out there watching this going, Gyle, you're so annoying, it's right there, you've scrolled past it. It's the sort of thing, imagining that sort of stuff is the sort of thing that gets me up in the morning. So we do have a nuke, but it is out from Sneed. And where is it headed? I'm imagining they'll have done some solid scouting of the area to find a weak spot. Great interception there from JT, who has major air dominance up in this top pond, shooting down Azar. ICBM going to take down a nice little group of air factories over here. Goodness me, what an absolute slugfest this has been. 43.5 minutes into this game, and we're still none the wiser on who's going to emerge victorious. Astonishingly, look at the differential now between mass output between these two teams. Team 1, who, remember at the beginning, were behind for quite some time, are now putting out more mass than a 2-to-1 ratio against their opponents. It's 2.3, 2.4k versus 1.1k. that is unsustainable, and that is driven primarily by Yudi, who's putting out 1.8k. He's Aeon. Is it all support commanders? I think it might be. We saw them move to the middle and they were upgrading en masse their RAS preset to begin with. Do they have an advanced RAS option? Maybe that's not one of the ones. I'm not sure they actually do have an advanced RAS. Maybe that's just the ACU that has it. These guys down here were upgrading something, perhaps. Massively increase the SACU build power, the rapid fabricator, and you can see the impact of that. Look how quickly he is spamming up Colossi. Is it Colossi or Colossus? I've asked this question many a time and had different answers from everybody. This could be the nail in Team 2's coffin, the final one. How on earth are they going to repel firepower of that magnitude? How on earth are they going to contend with Yudi putting out that much mass? This is not, I believe, I don't think, unless I'm mistaken and I've missed it, I don't think this is down to any kind of experimental resource gen. I think this is just off the backs of support commander output. How many support commanders are we looking at right now? Holy potato. 117 RAS preset support commanders. No wonder he's putting out that kind of mass. So, if you were at all wondering up until that point which team was favourite to win it, unquestionably Team 1 at this point, barring a miracle. Yudi putting out crazy amounts of eco, and even if by some miracle, of course, Team 2 managed to snipe him, then we still have the situation of full share and all of those support commanders going to one of the other players on Team 1. But now, huge bands of restorers completely mopping up the base. The main base of Marrow has gone. Got excited for a moment there because support commanders are going pop in the main base over here for Yudi.
Strategic launch detected.
As Azar has made it all the way over here. Where is the air support? There it is. It's inbound now. Nukes going out from strategic submarines over here. 3 of them. The Tsar is going to get blown out of the sky, but it's not going to save this base. Support commanders evacing as quickly as possible. Shady Socks, how did you sneak a Tsar? I'm wondering exactly the same thing. I didn't see it. But it's the way it goes. Look at the damage being inflicted by these nukes right now. But most of, in fact, all of the support commanders got out, so he's not even going to be a little bit worried about those. Crucially, he has completely crippled Marrow's air production. There is nothing left in here. So Marrow has got left this handful of ASFs, this pretty sizable group of whalers, admittedly, but he's going to struggle to produce any more anytime soon. Another nuke out from Sneed. This time it's an ICBM. And where is it going? Looks like it might be heading over here, right to where those ACUs are passing. It'd be nice if you could take all of those out. I'm not rooting for any one team particular, guys, but I do tend to root for the underdog as games progress, just purely because I like games to last a long time. I want to see as many comebacks from comebacks as possible, but that is going to be quite a nice placed nuke. He's going to bag himself 2 T3 naval yards, and a whole bunch of support commanders are going to go pop in that one. Boom! Beautiful nuke right there. But still, Yudi Hakamaka putting out 1.8k. Huge quantities of restorers. Now latching on to a Colossus there from Sneed. That's not getting out. And of course we now have what is likely to be endless quantities of inbound Colossus.
Strategic launch
Colossi.
detected.
Support Commander's taking a break from producing. Colossus moving further in. Counter nuke. Oh, look at that. Shady Socks. Whoa! So Shady Socks going for the tele-snipe gets nuked. So that was the weird trajectory we saw. The nuke actually was fired from Sneed. He nuked his own base and took out Shady Socks, who was trying to be clever after the demise, essentially, of the beach and the causeway, looking pretty peaky too. So a glimmer of hope, potentially. But how are they going to deal with UD, man? Literally, all they've got left is the island and the cliffs, and there are huge quantities of Colossus inbound, and they've no way to take them out. They can't come at them with quantities of gunships because UD and JT will jump on those. That will be the most effective tool against the Colossus, that horde of gunships, if it's even in the area, to be able to be brought to bear upon it. But I would imagine, with the overwhelming advantage they now have in the air, Team 1 should be able to scupper that. Couple of torrents from Sneed, helping to finish off the base buildings over here. And we are actually starting to see land incursion underway. Engineers spamming up tons of T1 land factories from Sneed. And one Colossus there as well, but uh-oh. That support commander explosion signals the arrival of UD's Colossus at Sneed's main base. Sacrifice Telly Para. What a ridiculous game this has been. And I imagine he could spam up Paragons pretty quickly now with all of the capabilities he's got mass-wise, and that's exactly what he's doing. Look at that fly up. And he's still not even look! And these all have rapid fabricators, and he's still not depleting that colossal mass bar particularly quickly. That is disgusting levels of eco for non-resource gen capabilities. I'm assuming he's going to have that up and running in no time at all, and then expect to see these puppies popping up everywhere for redundancy. But just wow. So whalers are brought to bear. They do manage to snipe one of the 4 Colossus. Where is the air power? Wow, this is a missed trick here. Air power loitering up at the top of the screen. They really could have done with air superiority fighter cover to try and fend off these gunships. But the gunships, by the looks of things, are going to take down at least 3 of the 4 Colossus, maybe all 4. I'm not seeing any major response on the cards from JT's air superiority fighters. They're just kind of lurking for the time being. Wow, and a Colossus from Sneed got all the way towards the main base, but got bombed into oblivion by those T1 bombers circling in that portion of the map. Another strategic missile out from Sneed. Has he managed to take out the SMD? Oh, it's on. Game on. There goes air production, largely speaking, for Team 1 now. Wow. This game just gets crazier and crazier. Shady Socks throwing out the GG. Marrow throwing out the GG. I don't know why. No one has any idea who's won yet. Maybe those guys have to go. Hakamaka starting teleporter. Not you as well, sir. Don't do it. I don't even know where the comm is. Let's have a look if we can see. So he's down here, 50% done on the teleporter already. What's he rocking on that bad boy? So far, he's just currently got the engineering suite, T3. But that is the state of play for the time being. And there goes the last Colossus. Look at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Colossus wrecks down here. There's a lot of mass to be scooped, in all fairness. Now, if he can hold the territory to do it, there are some gunships down here he'd be worried about losing engineers too. And there's resource gen number 2 flying up in no time at all. Money, no option at this point, of course. He could probably afford to transfer a bunch of support commanders now over to JT to help him with his mass situation, but I imagine what he'll be doing is he'll spam up a bajillion resource gens and just gift one of them over to JT. That is definitely the way to do it. Tsar holding fast over the water over here, and we are starting to see mass further spam pushing inwards now. And it really is, still to this day, quite effective. Suicide mortars, best way to take down large groups of units. Billy Nuke landing over here right on top of this new installation that's planned for JT to try and get back in the air production game. Having lost his main base, of course, to that well-placed nuke we saw a while ago. Few fervors making it in around the back over here, but it's just, look at the wheeling action we've got going on. UD now firmly embedded in the beach down here, doesn't even need to worry about losing his mexes up here. Even if he loses everything, the fact that he's got experimental resource gens in play make life supremely difficult for Team 2 to pull out a win at this point. Sneed, I mean, look at that. 314 mass versus 3.89k, 4k, whatever he decides to draw upon at any time, whatever's convenient. Tsar at the top of the screen. Finally gets shot down. Not actually sure how much damage that inflicted over here. What's left of Marrow's gunship squadrons sent in against the remnants of Team 1's ground forces up here over at the beach. Torrents breaking through tactical missile defense coverage over here. Only when the highest concentration of missile volleys arrive at the same time, only then do the missiles make contact. Where are all subs died? I don't know what that was in reference to. How about nukes? So obviously there were a bunch of more. We did see, of course, strategic missile submarines down here. There were some launches earlier from Sneed, one from Armour, I think. But they are all dead. Down and out, so to speak. Just examining what we've got down here from you. Oh my goodness me, look how many resource gens he's building now. Okay, it's not even selecting them, that's quite annoying. So it only selects the built ones. So he's got 2 completed, but we've got another one going up there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 queued up there. I mean, you could probably hand that one over to JT, couldn't you? JT with his poor, paltry 204 mass output. Go on, send him a resource gen. Be kind. And that hero gunship squadron, bingo on fuel. Nothing but sitting ducks for JT, who still has a very sizable band of air superiority fighters, despite losing his main base. But half of them are out of fuel now at 66 with fuel, 63 without. That massively, massively reduces their combat efficiency, as we've seen time and time again. All of the speed disappears. Still a decent number of gunships left, but they are all out. And in fact, he's had to start construction of some air staging facilities over here just to keep these gunships relevant. Mass further spam from Sneed, still being pumped out, still doing their job pretty effectively. Reactor down and out, but UD quite simply couldn't care less. I wonder if they must suspect he's got a resource gen, even if they haven't seen it. Wondering if they've managed to scout it, though, because he now has 3, and soon to be many, many more. Well placed, of course. Well spaced out. Can't have them on top of each other. It's like a nuke goes off when those things die. Ooh. How very pretty. Nice little spirally formation there as they circle around God knows what for no particular reason. So I think it's fair to say you've probably got enough resource gens. Maybe send half of these support commanders to start spamming out more Colossus. Finish off the threat down here from Sneed. Personally, that's what I'd be going for. But he wants to make absolutely sure that he cannot find himself in a position where his limitless resources, or his access to limitless resources can ever be threatened in any way. As we approach the 1 hour threshold, and this really tells the story now. And it's going to climb and climb like crazy. Team 1 has now consumed, or pumped out, or drawn, or generated 8.29 million mass. And just look at the rate at which that is climbing compared to the 3.67 million that Team 2 has drawn. Surely this is a point, or we're getting to a point where we'll be able to call it now for Team 1. It's just ridiculous. They're going up everywhere. UD with a grotesque display. I'd say they're probably bunched a little too close. I love it, though. I love the redonkulous spam. He could at any point just start spamming up rapid fire artilleries in no time at all, with the huge quantity of build capacity he's got. Lots of emplacements still kicking about for JT, dotted around the landscape. Actually producing some Auroras here, which is an interesting decision. I don't know why you wouldn't just stick with the fervors, to be honest. There are no ground units really to be concerned about. It is all structures at this point. Those whalers have refueled, taking a pot shot at a horde of air superiority fighters as they just drift past. Looks like JT quite possibly under threat over here from all of that further spam, but another sneaky czar. How he's doing it with the sneaky czars, I don't know. Manages to get in here and hoover up 2 or 3 of the resource gens before getting blapped out of the sky by what is a colossal quantity of restorers. I really do get the feeling that Yudi is toying with them at this point and has been for some time. He has at least 3 Paragons already built. How many does he have now? He has 6 Paragons built. JT picking up his comm on a transport and going somewhere. This could be a bit risky. Where is he headed? Is he trying to get down to the south where Yudi's stationed? Flying overhead. Attack ping's going down, so I think Team 2 have spotted it. Armour says ACU in trans. There are a couple of whalers down here. Is he just going for the mini pond? Air superiorities fighters for JT. Trying to contend with those gunships. But they don't have Team 2, excuse me, don't have the air power to run sorties, to do little things like shoot down a comm in transit. They just don't. And Marrow, who is all but down and out, where is he? Let's find that comm. Starting work on a laser. There he is. Up on the beach. That's actually his first upgrade so far. 10% done on that laser. Is he just using it on the ground offensively? Is he going to build a teleporter with it? He hasn't got much in the way of power plants to support telemasering. 3 SARs meanwhile in the top pond for Sneed. He's actually been doing remarkably well with those. They keep popping up in random places and catching Team 1 by surprise, by the looks of things anyway. Certainly catching me by surprise, but so much has been going on this. Undoubtedly, I will have missed tons and tons of stuff, but that is just the nature of the beast. You physically can't catch everything. Billy Nuke landing down here. The old position of Udi's, the cliffs at Team 1's base over here, finally destroyed by mass spam. And it's actually, we're getting a pretty much a complete base trade here. You don't see it that often. You do get the wheeling effect, but it's not often you see teams almost completely switch positions. Udi's still only sitting on half of the territory, more or less, on Team 2's side down here. Whereas Team 1 actually almost in control of all of the top. It's just a question of finishing off JT's main base now. It's got lots of T1 spam. Certainly enough firepower to do it. That laser now 92% complete. Paragon Geddon. Yeah, that's the way to do it. Oh, and there's finally, he transfers some Paragons over to JT. It's like, I've had my fun now. Now you can get it. But he hasn't actually got much in the way of build capacity. He's got, I suppose he's got his comm over here. Maybe he's only gifted it over to help him finish his telemaser.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
Oh my goodness!
Strategic launch detected.
It's like an illustration of what happens if NATO actually does properly intervene in Ukraine. That's exactly what's going to happen. Wow! Look at that spread. That is redonk. Absolutely redonkulous. Look at it! OM goodness.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
And another volley coming out as well.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
That is disgusting.
Strategic launch detected.
And we still have Marrow routed to the spot on a T3 upgrade up here. Missiles
launch detected.
Edging further and further towards him.
Strategic launch detected.
And that will be enough. So Marrow bows out.
Detected.
No, it doesn't. It drops just short.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected. Strategic
Wow.
launch detected.
He's pretty lucky, but there's more missiles coming out all the time. Another one about to drop over here. I think it's probably worth cancelling your upgrade at that point and getting on the move. Look at this nuclear obliteration. Sneed has been completely wiped out. So that's what he was planning all along, and maybe this nuke will get Marrow.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
Insane. Look at all of the red target pings going down all over the top ocean.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
There's just no end in sight, seemingly. UD spamming out more and more of these nukes. The Tsars are dispatched to try and hoover up some of these subs, but the damage is well and truly done.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch
JT
detected.
jumps over here
Detected. Strategic launch detected.
with his telemaser.
Strategic launch detected.
Wow.
Strategic launch detected. Strategic launch detected.
I've never seen in any GyleCast here, GyleCast Premium or on the May
Strategic
YouTube
launch
channel,
detected.
we've never seen nuclear obliteration on this scale. Absolutely insane. JT hoovering things up on the side island with a
Strategic
telemaser.
launch detected.
And Hakamaka teleporting to the top of the screen. I'm not sure why. He's run straight into a whole load of T1 subs. And now he's about to maybe get out. Yeah, I think he's going to get out. Just in time, though. What? Hang on a minute. Where did he die? Is he died? Wait. What did it just say? It popped up there. So he, oh my god! Oh, I mean, it doesn't really count. Let's face it, that was a joke suicide at the end there. JT inherits everything, but JT is in a pretty precarious situation over on the side island. And is now dodging all over the place, and he can't teleport out because he has to stand still to do that. There is a battleship in range and opening up on JT. Hakamaka, as a joke, suicides himself, handing everything over to JT, but JT...
Strategic launch detected.
And now there's an inbound nuke from one of the strategic missile submarines over here belonging to Sneed. Oh, this is too much. Hakamaka walk to the edge. He's... Boom, baby! I'm lost for words at the end of that 1 hour and 10-minute game. Sneed wins by killing off JT. I want to see, because there was a lot of conversation going off over here. So Hakamaka teleported up here, I'm guessing for a joke, because he expected to hand everything over to JT. But it was weird because it came up with a I guess Hakamaka must have finished off somebody else, but no, but there was, maybe he finished off armor somewhere. The notify mod came up. And that's what I thought. I thought he'd teleported somewhere else and got picked off. What a convoluted, crazy ending. But I just want to see what they were talking about there. JT can't escape land. Hang on. So how far back does it go? That's the question. That's my consolation. Blah, blah, blah. Hakamaka, lots of laughing faces. Get out of there before you're dead. So he's already dead at that point, I think. So he jumped up here, and then instead of teleporting back to safety, he teleported over here. I mean, he was just expecting to die and hand the victory over to his teammate, I think. I think that was the idea. Lol WTF from Marrow. JT can't escape island. If he stands still, he dies. Lots of laughing faces. I thought, no way you hide there. I didn't. I just tellied there, yeah. So it was an intentional trolly like joke play. He intended to die, but I'm not sure he expected JT to lose that from that position. Sneed, why didn't he tell it? He couldn't have done, though. There was no way for JT to get out of that with that battleship on him. And Sneed comes out with the win for Team 2. So, arguably, it's like, I mean, you know, UD was having jokes. So, like, if he was playing sensibly, that wouldn't have happened. But it's quite a ridiculous ending. It has to be said. And it just goes to show you that these guys don't take it too seriously and have a hell of a lot of fun when they get into these epic games. I hope you enjoyed it, guys. As always, more to come from me in the future. I'm going to try and get a YouTube cast out this week. I'm going to record that tomorrow. I still need to find a decent one. So send your replays in, guys, and hopefully you'll get featured. You never know. Oh, yes. And don't forget, pick your comm up at a transport with a T2 or T3 upgrade and throw him at your commander's base, because that always increases your chances of getting casted. Anyway, until next time, stay well and stay safe. This is Gyle, signing out.